The night over the Taiwan Strait is unnaturally calm. No sirens, no explosions, just water darkness and waiting. Radar screens glow in quiet rooms. Pilots sit strapped into cockpits, engines, cold hands, steady eyes fixed forward. Somewhere beneath the surface, submarines move without sound. Above them, satellites pass silently overhead, recording everything. Nothing has happened yet. And that is exactly what makes this moment dangerous. Because if Taiwan becomes the battlefield of the century, it will not begin with chaos. It will begin with restraint, with calculation, with silence. This is not a story about one island. It is a story about how the modern world breaks. Tonight, we ask a question that shapes war plans, economic forecasts, and quiet conversations between world leaders. What if Taiwan became the battlefield of the century? To understand this, we must understand what Taiwan represents. Taiwan is small in size, but immense in consequence. It sits at the intersection of geography, technology, and power. An island positioned at the heart of the Western Pacific, controlling access between major sea lanes and strategic airspace. It is a place where shipping routes, military corridors, and digital supply chains converge. But Taiwan's importance goes beyond maps. Inside factories that never sleep machines produce the most advanced semiconductor chips on Earth. These chips are not optional luxuries. They are the backbone of modern life. They power smartphones, cars, medical equipment, satellites, and weapons systems. Without them, economies stall, militaries slow, technology regresses. Taiwan is not just defended for political reasons. It is defended because the world runs through it. For decades, the status quo has held through ambiguity. No official declarations, no formal war. Just a delicate balance maintained by deterrence diplomacy and the shared fear of escalation. But what if that balance fails? This scenario does not begin with an invasion force crossing the sea. It begins with pressure. The first phase is invisible to most people. Financial stress appears quietly. Markets grow nervous. Insurance premiums rise. Shipping companies reconsider routes. Airlines adjust flight paths. At the same time, cyber activity intensifies. Networks are tested. Communications slow. Financial systems experience unexplained disruptions. Power grids flicker, then stabilize. Nothing dramatic enough to justify war, but enough to signal intent. Then comes the move that changes everything. A blockade in all but name. Naval exercises increase. Air patrols expand. Inspections become delays. Delays become shortages. Taiwan's dependence on imported energy and food becomes a strategic vulnerability. Within days, the pressure is felt. Within weeks, the question becomes unavoidable. Does the world accept this new reality, or does it respond? At this moment, the conflict expands beyond Taiwan itself. The United States faces a decision with consequences that will last generations. Intervening risks escalation between nuclear-armed powers. Failing to act risks the collapse of credibility across the Pacific. Japan watches closely. So does South Korea. So do nations across Southeast Asia. Because they all understand the same lesson: if Taiwan falls under force, no security guarantee feels reliable anymore. Military forces begin to move deliberately and visibly. Carrier groups reposition. Submarines deploy. Air bases shift into heightened readiness. Missile defenses activate. Deterrence becomes a performance. Visibility becomes a weapon. Then the first strike comes. Not against civilians. Not against cities. It targets infrastructure. Runways are cratered. Radar installations disabled. Ports disrupted. Precision weapons designed not to conquer, but to paralyze. Taiwan responds exactly as it has prepared for decades. Not with massed armies, but with resilience. Mobile missile systems relocate constantly. Command structures disperse. Underground facilities activate. Urban environments become defensive terrain. Mountains transform into shielded strongholds. This is not a quick war. This is endurance warfare. Every street becomes contested. Every decision becomes expensive. And unlike wars of the past, the battlefield does not stay local. The moment fighting begins, global consequences accelerate. Shipping through the South China Sea slows dramatically. Energy prices rise. Manufacturing supply chains fracture. Industries dependent on advanced chips begin shutting down within weeks. Stock markets plunge. Currencies wobble. Governments activate emergency economic measures. A conflict around Taiwan becomes an economic shockwave felt worldwide. This is the defining feature of 21st century war: interconnection. In the past, battles were measured in territory gained or lost. Now they are measured in systems disrupted. A missile launch here delays food deliveries thousands of miles away. A cyber attack there shuts down hospitals elsewhere. A satellite disruption affects navigation across entire continents. There is no rear line anymore, no safe distance. And there is one more layer that makes this scenario unlike any conflict before it. Time itself becomes a weapon. Every hour without resolution compounds pressure. Factories idle. Data centers ration power. Governments face unrest, not from ideology, but from scarcity. Leaders are no longer managing armies alone. They are managing panic, uncertainty, and the slow erosion of public confidence. In this kind of war, perception moves faster than missiles. A single rumor can shake markets more violently than an airstrike. A single miscalculation can close diplomatic doors forever. The battlefield stretches into living rooms, trading floors, and server farms. Victory is no longer defined by flags planted or cities taken, but by whether a society can absorb shock without tearing itself apart. And that may be the most dangerous realization of all, because once war becomes systemic, once it embeds itself into daily life, ending it becomes harder than starting it. Silence returns only after exhaustion, and history remembers not who fired first, but who failed to stop the collapse in time. As the conflict drags on, pressure builds for escalation. Targets expand, ranges increase. Military bases across the region come under threat. Space assets are interfered with or disabled. Communications become unreliable. Each side pushes carefully, always calculating how far is too far, and hovering over every decision is an unspoken fear. Nuclear escalation, not because it is desired, but because prolonged great power conflict narrows choices over time. History shows that when credibility, survival, and deterrence collide, restraint becomes harder to maintain. Yet even in this darkest scenario, the outcome is not fixed. Taiwan's geography favors defense. International pressure intensifies. Economic damage becomes politically dangerous for everyone involved. Back-channel negotiations accelerate. Quiet talks happen far from cameras. Proposals are floated, rejected, reshaped. Because eventually all sides confront the same realization. Winning the battlefield may mean losing the century. If Taiwan becomes the battlefield of the century, it will redefine warfare itself. It will prove that modern war is not about occupation alone, but about systems, supply chains, information, trust. It will test whether deterrence still works in an era of precision weapons, cyber conflict, and instant global reaction. And it will force humanity to face a sobering truth. The greatest danger is no longer a single catastrophic event. It is cascading collapse, because the real battlefield would not just be Taiwan. It would be the global order that keeps the modern world functioning. And once that battle begins, no one truly stands outside it. So we end with a question. If Taiwan becomes the battlefield of the century, what becomes the battlefield of the next one? And will we recognize it before it begins?